What is going on, everybody? And welcome to this week's edition of the Saturday Night Tailgate Show. Mario could not join us tonight, but I am joined by our usual guest, Mookie Hawkins, the sports director of WUFO Sports 1080. Mookie, how are you doing tonight? You also brought a very special guest with you. So how are you doing tonight, Mookie?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good, man. And we got I guess Mario couldn't make it, so we had the great replacement for Mario. You know what I mean? Got the great couch back there. It's like Mario chilling. So the legendary John Fina in the building, live from Arizona too.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was legendary, but I'll take it.
Hey, man, any player that goes through one Bills drive is always legendary. You know what I mean? That's just how the fans is. That's just how they are. This is how they embrace you. You know what I mean? You can pop up right now in Buffalo and somebody will recognize you no matter where you are. You know what I mean? So that's legendary.
I told people all the time I'm world famous in Buffalo, New York.
Absolutely. As you should. So hey, man. We got my man Clayton in here. When I let Clayton know that you was coming on, he was real excited because he balled out in the trenches just like you. You know what I mean? So I'm quite sure he has some great questions to ask you today.
Oh boy! All right. Well, I'm ready for it. You guys can ask me anything. That doesn't mean I'll answer, but you can ask me anything.
Well, I mean, first things first, the biggest news, obviously we'll get to this game between the Bills and the Cardinals, but the biggest news right now coming out of Buffalo is the fact that numerous players will not be making the trip to Arizona due to the spread of COVID-19 throughout the facility, starting off with cornerback Josh Norman, and I believe they traced it back to Tyler Kroft, Dean Marlowe, as well as Levi Wallace. So two defensive backs down, their tight end, and a backup safety. First things first, John, I want to know what your thoughts are regarding how the NFL has handled really kind of the COVID situation as a whole, and then how the Bills have handled it in their own individual situation.
Well, first of all, you say that, the guys that were near Josh Norman, they were contact traced. So, I don't know. I mean, were they holding hands? Were they kissing? Were they hugging? Were they 6 feet apart? I mean, did they just kind of wave at each other in a hallway? We got to have a little bit more on that before I start telling people they can't play football. It just seems a little unreasonable. I know the virus spreads, that it can be deadly for a certain population, but I just, in this kind of scenario, I wonder, shouldn't we have a little bit more information? I think the Bills have done a good job handling it so far. I mean, better than a couple of other teams that have had, worse situations with guys being held out. It looks like the NFL is doing a pretty good job. I by and large, I'm not sure if anybody really knows what we're doing works or not, because we have another spike. Europe, who locked everything down, has had big spikes recently. I get it. I mean, we should all wash our hands. We should all do the smart things. But isn't there a chance that maybe globally everybody eventually does get it? I don't know. Look, I wear my mask, okay? I mean, I know I should be wearing it because I'm talking to you guys, right?
You should be all right. You at home basis.
Yeah. So I wear my mask. I do my social distancing thing. I mean, I abide by all the rules, and I think by and large we've seen people do that, yet we're seeing a spike. So I think we probably in the next 6 to 12 months, this whole thing will have a much bigger story to it, and we'll have a lot more understanding of what the hell actually is going on with this virus.
Right. Absolutely, man. And
for me, I'm just upset because my players aren't playing tomorrow.
Right. That was a major blow when you sit up there and you know what? That's 3 starters. You know what I mean? Or potentially these guys get significant snaps right now, and the way how it's hard, for teams to build that chemistry and get that continuity with everything's going on, that could, that definitely will alter things. You know what I mean? We can't nickname it any other way. Daryl Worley, Darren Lee, Dane Jackson will be in action. They will be in action, because of that. And I'm real excited to see what these guys can bring to the table. Just just got pulled off off waivers and free agency. So I'm real eager to see what these guys bring to the table. They're two ultra guys that's a little bit more dynamic. I like Worley's size. I like Lee's athleticism. If we can get Lee out there on the field with duplicate with what AJ Klein did last week, Maine Savage is just Maine Savage. So if we can get that athleticism to go along with AJ Klein, hey, we got some depth. We got some quality depth going forward. That's the big question in regards to that there.
Okay, Mookie. All right, fair enough. Right. So you just had to go through like this freaking mental gymnastics about people that we don't know that much about that are getting thrown into the fire because some other guys were contact trace. I want to know what kind of contact that was. What's the real risk? I mean, aren't there varying degrees of risk?
Yes.
I mean, so, yes. All right. So I knew a guy who walked by a guy in a hallway who had COVID, and now I'm contact traced?
Yeah. That's how it's working.
I don't know. I mean, to me, so now, okay, I agree. I mean, I think that Bean and McDermott do a great job assessing talent. I think they do an even better job assessing personalities and guys that commit and contribute to culture. So I hope that you're right. And I'm rooting for the Bills. I will until the end of time. So, but it just seems so weird that we're in this situation. Again, if they tested positive, then they tested positive. So that's a different story.
Yeah, or it's just a precaution, more or less. It's just a precaution that, hey, you can't take this trip because this test hasn't came back. And if you have this and then, after playing that game, you could, potentially spread it. So it's more or less, I think, it's a precaution. Even,
Can't they put up like some shower curtains in a certain area of the plane? They like wear like a rebreather respirator, like I've seen enough science fiction movies. We could like borrow shit from NASA and have guys like travel in a spacesuit. I mean, that'd be cool. And they could have like the exhale hose go directly to the outside. And then by the time they get to Arizona, you pop them with the test and we're good. I mean, let's be a little bit more creative.
Got to do something to bring this thing out.
If I'm the coach of a losing team, right? If I'm the coach of a losing team in the NFL this year, I'm like, thank God for COVID, because I think like it gives me a chance, right? Like I could survive another year. Oh wait, not Adam Gase though. I mean, that guy's a straight. That's a train wreck. It's like a perpetual train wreck. So he's like, damn, I can't even survive with the COVID. I'm screwed.
Yo, that's like living the real movie of Final Destination 1, 2, and 3.
Oh Lord, yeah, I know. You're like, I'll retire before I go play for the Jets.
John, at the end of your point there, you kind of touched on the premise of how Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott really try and bring in good people in this locker room, hardworking individuals with high character and high motors and what have you. With that being said, from someone like you who was on those Super Bowl teams, who was a part of probably the largest amount of success that this team has had in its existence, what do you think really about this football team that they've put together and what they've been able to produce so far, a little halfway through, or a little more than halfway through the 2020 season?
Well, I mean, I got to say, at 7-2 with the variety of injuries that they've had on defense, especially, and you've seen a lot of guys, just like Mookie was talking about. You're going to see guys filling roles all over the field tomorrow, and they've already done it due to injuries, let alone COVID now. And to be 7-2 and have those injuries, I think is outstanding. Now that begs the question, though, how good is the defense overall? Obviously, they've got to figure out better ways to stop the run. I noticed, in the Patriots game, the defense was coming downhill a little bit more aggressively, did a little bit better on the run, and, had a little bit of a lapse against Seattle. But by and large, I mean, what I like about this team is that they're resilient, that they've won close games. They haven't really blown anybody out. They've been in the lead, they've maintained a lead, or but they've been in a lot of dogfights. So at this point in the season, 9 games in, you get this feeling, having won a game that was close, that you can win any game that's close and that you can always be close. And that's in here and it's in here. And that's a culture thing, and it sort of perpetuates itself. When I got to Buffalo, being on those Super Bowl teams, there was never a doubt until the last second ticked off the clock that Thurman and Bruce and Jim and Kent didn't think we were going to win the game. I mean, Daryl Talley would, we'd be down by 17 with 1 minute left, and he said, we're coming back. And that's what I see in this team. I see that sort of resiliency, that excitement. I love how the whole community rallied around Josh Allen. I love Stephon Diggs and all the receiving core. And what I've noticed about the offense is they've done a really good job with their game planning, and they're really just deciding what to do against each team. Now, I prefer more running against Seattle. That's me, because I'm an offensive lineman. But I love how they're evolving and game planning for each week, and it seems to be working.
Absolutely, man. And speaking of, those Super Bowl teams, and they haven't been 7-2 since you played on the squad. So you embrace the highs and the lows. You know what I mean? So you experienced that during the tail end of a dynasty. How did you really embrace the highs and the lows throughout your career?
Well, I think I had a lot of great coaches who were philosophers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Dick Tomey, Marv Levy, they really talked about the game as it relates to life. And every setback is a learning opportunity. Every failure is a chance to pick yourself back up. Wade Phillips was a player's coach, and he had that same attitude. Even Dave McGinnis at Arizona, when we were terrible my final year. What I learned from those guys is we're going to celebrate our victories. We're going to learn from our mistakes. But as we get older, we're not going to think about the bad days. I said it to Vic Carucci the other day. It's like parenting. All of my kids were rotten half the time, but I'm not focusing on that. I'm just focusing on the wonderful memories and the beautiful things that they've done. So when I look back on my career in Buffalo, sure, I got beat for a sack. Sure, I came up short here and there. The team came up short. But the victories that we had and the excitement, the camaraderie, man, that is nothing compares to that. Nothing.
Right. That's what we call legendary, right?
Oh, yeah.
Legendary.
It's a legendary place.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So, yeah, that was some good stuff, man. And my guy would kill me if I didn't mention him or ask you a question about him. Ruben Brown. You know what I mean? What's your best? What's your best Ruben Brown story?
Well, Ruben might not like me telling this story, but at first I don't think Ruben and I really kind of got along. He was a rookie, and I'm a veteran, and he was kind of young and wild, and we didn't see eye to eye. And then one night after a game, Ruben was like, "What's going on, man? I mean, why aren't we better pals?" And that's putting it mildly. The conversation might have been a little bit different. I said, "Hey, you got time right now? Let's go sit down and have a couple of Coca-Colas, and we'll talk it out." And Ruben and I had this, we sat down probably for 5-6 hours and had this unbelievable kind of discussion. What it was like to be me, what it was like to be him, what our job is, and where we're going. And I think from that day forward, we just developed a bond that that was just so strong. And Ruben and I were just always on the same page together. And I think that one event probably brought me closer to any other teammate that I've ever had in my life.
Absolutely, man. And just look at the career that he had playing alongside of you, with that knowledge and that wisdom to give to him. You know how those first round picks is, you was one yourself. Y'all two alphas over there, So, y'all ain't too far, y'all was like 3 years apart. So you looking at this guy, he's looking at you, but y'all had to work together to get that job done. And, look at the guy that he's become because of you. Maybe that might have took place at the Big Tree.
Yeah, might have. Might have. The funny thing about that is people will ask, what do you miss most about the NFL, right? And it's not the meetings. It's not the game planning. It's the guys hanging out in the locker room and, playing in the game at one-on-one between, me and the other guy. But at some point, though, you start thinking about all those alpha males in one room, in the locker room all the time. It just starts to smell. I mean, the egos, it just starts to be like, Jesus, can we tone it down? Can we bring it down a couple notches? Everybody is like 100% all the time.
Always on go, man. That's how it is when.
That's right.
Hey, when you the beast of the East, man, that's how it is. You always on go mode, man. And right now, 2020 Bills is definitely, has those traits. One more, then I'm gonna let Clay come in because I know he's real, ready to roll.
Who's Clay?
Dion, my man CG3 over there.
I'm just teasing you, man. I'm just teasing you.
Dion Dawkins and company, because the Bills have I think has a really solid rotation. What's your assessment of him and that solid rotation up front for the Bills right now?
Well, I think they're all playing solid football up front. And I am always loath to be a critic of offensive linemen because you battle every play, and I'm not that guy, right? So somebody gets beat once, I'm not going to say, he's the shits, So by and large, I think they're all playing well. I think the thing that would help them better is get Moss and Singletary more active and use a little bit more of the play action. I think that in the instances where they haven't looked great, it's because they were put in a position where they were going to suffer. But I think Dawkins is playing well, and they've had obviously the rotation in the interior three. That's really hard to overcome because those three guys in the middle, they really have to have a strong continuity. And when those guys, it's a little bit of a carousel. That's hard to overcome, and I think they're doing a great job of it. Obviously.
Speaking of the carousel,
was that ambiguous enough? Like, did I avoid that question tactfully enough?
That was dead on. That I probably would have, you would have said that if you was at practice yesterday. You probably would have said that. But no, that's a great answer though, because a lot of people don't understand how important that is to lose a guy, and then all of a sudden the next man up, and he plays just as well. That continuity, like that. They say that word, but people don't really understand how meaningful that word truly is when it comes to, the game of football. So I'm glad you was able to set some insight on that.
My pleasure.
Now, you kind of alluded to it there. The continuity, the chemistry, and the camaraderie of the offensive line kind of really has a lot to do with the execution up front. Just trusting the guys next to you to do their jobs correctly so you can just focus on your responsibility. With that being said, I'm curious to know, how do you feel John Feliciano changed the complexion of the interior of that offensive line once he got plugged back into the lineup? Because, he comes back in, and then I believe Mitch Morse got injured, and he's forced into playing center, a position that he did not practice for leading up to that game coming off of his rotator cuff injury. And then he has to start at center last week, and he's done a great job since returning from injury. I was just wondering if you could shed some light onto what you think of his performance thus far.
Well, it's interesting, that's a tough position to be in. So you're out. You're a definitive leader on the offensive line, both physically and verbally, right? I mean, that's the guy. And then you're out. So there's a little bit of a void. And then you got four other guys trying to figure out, like, okay, who's the guy that's going to pick up that slack? Like Ruben was a huge vocal leader on the offensive line. I kind of led the offensive line in the meeting room, staying focused, staying on track. And so then the guy is out, then he comes back in, and then he immediately goes to center. But you can see the difference. He just has a wonderfully vicious attitude about offensive line play. And that type of thing is contagious. So getting a guy like him back in the mix it's really awesome. I mean, I think their offensive line play improved in the Seattle game in particular. I thought that they did outstanding up front with pass protection, and especially if you consider that it wasn't a surprise that it was going to be all pass after about the first quarter. There wasn't a ton of running going on, and the way that they really stood up and protected Josh Allen was awesome.
Right. Two of the defensive linemen for the Arizona Cardinals this week, they're going to be inactive. That being Jordan Phillips and Loki Fotu. I believe that's how you say his name. I could be mistaken. I'm sorry, but
Wasn't he in the Avengers movie, Loki?
I believe so. Yeah, I think he had a minor role, but he was in the movie. Yeah,
he had long hair like Mookie, but it just wasn't dreadlock.
Well, with two guys along the interior of that defensive line for the Arizona Cardinals, there is some opportunities to be had with mismatches and whatnot, not having the ideal guys that you want in your front seven starting up front. Now, do you think this could potentially be an opportunity for the Bills' rushing attack to kind of find their tracks again like they did against New England Patriots? Or do you think this is going to be a kind of the type of game that we saw last week against Seattle where they were airing it out from start to finish? Or do you think there's going to be somewhat of a balanced approach in this game?
No, I think this game will be more balanced. I think you really have to approach this with every facet of the game. The run game, play action, intermediate, and long throws. I think Josh is ready to air out some long balls to John Brown and Stephon Diggs now. I don't think we've really seen a ton of that. So I think you're going to see quite a bit of balance. Now, when you talk about, new guys up front, I mean, we're saying the same thing on our defense right now. We got guys out with COVID, so they're having the same conversation about our team. And just going back to what Mookie said earlier, is you can't count these new guys out. I mean, these guys are all wanting to pay their mortgage, make their car payment, and they all want to play football again next year.
Right.
So there's also that wild card of a guy showing up and just playing out of his head because, hey, you never know. He could be the starter the following week because the other guy was out, right? So I don't really I never put too much onus on or excitement about somebody being out because the next guy is going to be an animal too.
Yeah, because I'm really thrilled to see. I mean, I thought I was going to see Darren Lee last week because we know that Matt Milano wasn't going to play. But damn, we didn't see that. But we definitely saw AJ Clyde. So, with that being said, we know, what Darren Lee could bring to the table as far as his attributes, to pair that with that aggressive AJ Klein that we saw last week in Maine Savage. I mean, that's something that real exciting to see going into Arizona, knowing that this Kyler Murray kid, he could beat you in the air and he could beat you with his legs. So we're going to have to need those necessary spies. Maybe Lee be the spy. We can keep Darren Lee aggressive. And, we got 6'6", 250, just lurking in the wings. So I'm thrilled to see that. And, with Worley, 6'1", 215, he can play inside, outside, and safety. So he gives you that flexibility. And he's familiar with the scheme. The continuity isn't there, but he's familiar with the scheme. So I'm intrigued to see that. Now knowing if these guys could come out and we could produce and knowing what we have on the side, we're ready for war when the playoffs come.
Well, right.
It really costs the Bills too much. So
that's the way I feel about it, right? But if you mentally, kind of say, oh, it's an off week because some guy's out, then, that's a disaster waiting to happen. No, I think most guys don't want to do that. But even though it's a fast season, right? It's only 17 weeks. Sometimes it feels like a marathon. And maintaining a fever pitch for 16, 17 weeks in a row, I mean, that's why almost nobody ever goes undefeated, right? I mean, you just can't keep it up that long. But individually, if you're able to just make sure that you're like, look, this is my battle, right? I can only worry about what's in front of me. I can only control the controllables. You just got to hope everybody else is doing that, including the staff who's game planning.
Right. Absolutely. And you hit the nail right there. The staff who's game planning, because, some things you like, well, why Josh do that? That's because that's how that was the play call and that was the play design. You know what I mean? Like, we're seeing it different on TV than your guys actually playing and seeing it. You know, we only see the screen of the trenches. We don't see the routes that the receivers run and why Josh is holding on to the ball that damn long because, hey, coach just had everybody just do curls and everybody's sitting on that. Now Josh is sitting around like somebody's open. He's not open. But you guys know, you know what I mean? So it goes hand in hand. You know what I mean? It definitely goes hand in hand. So,
well, it's look, I think this is probably, well, I mean, obviously, you know, besides the 2 losses, this is probably the most confounding game for the defense. I mean, Kyler Murray just poses so many challenges. I mean, you've seen it. I mean, he's made probably, you know, first ballot Hall of Fame guys just miss, just stops, change his direction. And what do? Well, you're going to spy him, you're going to rush 4, and even your spy, I mean, who's that guy going to be and who's going to catch him? So there's so many challenges. I think when I talked about the Seattle game, and to be fair, I said that the Bills would not win the Seattle game unless I did add this caveat, to win the game, they had to win the turnover battle. So I look at this game in the same way. If they can pry the ball loose, not turn it over, and establish a nice, you know, probably 1 drive per quarter that's 8 plays or more that ends up in a touchdown, I think they win. They can get 2 turnovers and 4 drives over 8 plays that end in touchdowns, I think they win the game.
Absolutely. Hey, I can go for that. Let me ask you this question before I know Clay has another question, and then, you know, we'll close you out. But this is my thing. Now, here it is. Bills off this great signature win against Seattle. You know, we dropped the ball against Kansas City. They dropped the ball against Tennessee. They get this big win. You know, Seattle was the best thing smoking in the NFL last week. Everybody was talking Russell Wilson MVP. Pete Carroll gets the sneaky little contract extension. You know, all is great in Seattle right now. Then all of a sudden they come to Buffalo and they get their ass kicked.
They really did too.
They get their ass kicked. Now here it is. Miami goes to Arizona, and just because I think Coach Kingsbury didn't pull the trigger on 4th and 1. And Kyler Murray was mad at that or something like that. Or something, I think it boiled down to one play that he was pissed off about. They end up losing the game, right? So now the theme is, well, the Bills beat Seattle, and, you know, just because the Bills beat Seattle and now Arizona lost to Miami at home, they're going to be angry. So I'm going to take Arizona and Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of people think like that. Players don't think like that. So I think that's kind of the defining deal. Like, you know, even if a team came into Buffalo in 1992 that was, you know, 1-6 or 3-5, you know, when we prepared as an offensive line, we looked at all the individual battles themselves, and, like, you know, we had just an incredible amount of respect for the front 7 of every defense we played. You know, there's always 4 guys on there who are just more than a handful. So I think you get to that kind of talk floating around. There's so many talking heads now. And I, you know, to be fair, I'm really enjoying this program because I don't feel like I'm, you know, like you guys are the stars of the show and you have all these opinions. But I mean, you turn on everywhere now, and everybody's an expert. Everybody's drilling down on like the most minute little psychological detail. But in the end, man, it's a game, and sometimes there's no way in hell that the Buffalo Bills were so bad that we lost to Dallas that bad in Los Angeles. There's just no way.
Right.
So you lose to the Tennessee Titans, who then lose the other night to Indianapolis, and they look terrible. Sometimes it ain't your day, and that's the deal. How do you get up for every game and you turn good luck into more luck? And you keep the bad luck pushed down.
Right. You know what I mean?
Sometimes it's just the football gods just, you know, sticking it to you.
Gotta keep you honest. Keeping you honest.
Right. I had to ask that, man, because I'm tired of getting that. Like, we beat Miami beat Arizona, but Arizona is mad they lost to Miami, so they're going to beat the Bills.
That's
Like,
not
really?
even the Greeks, like from 1,000 years ago, would tell you there's no math there. There's no mathematics there. Sorry, Pythagoras, he's like, forget it. Copernicus is not going to tell you that there's zero hype. There's no math on that. I'm sorry. And, I just laugh when I hear shit like that. And then now I'm hearing, Tua Tagovailoa is the greatest thing since the last greatest thing. I mean, the guy's played, 1.5 or 2 games, and now he's better than Josh Allen. So then all the Bills Mafia people and all the Bills backers groups are all pissed off because everybody's talking about Tua. And I'm like, they're just talking about shit because they just want to talk about shit.
Man, John's on it.
I'm going to get another beer out in the garage.
Oh yeah, he's. Oh my goodness. Well, I think that's probably a good sign that it's time to ask you. Really, I want to know how you feel about the development of Josh Allen from the day that he came to Buffalo to this moment in time at right now. The linear growth and what have you. How do you feel about Josh Allen, the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills?
So, everybody says they could have drafted, I think it was Lamar Jackson in the draft, right? And I mean, you just don't know, right? People always say to me after the draft, like, on the Bills draft, and I always have the same answer. I always say the same damn thing. I don't know. Write down their names, and in probably 2.5 years, I'll tell you what I think of this year's draft, right? Because you just don't know. Guys just develop differently. So with respect to Josh Allen, I was lucky, actually. The Buffalo Bills flew me back in that draft, and then both the first-round picks showed up in the lobby, after the draft coming in, and I got to be there. All the excitement, everybody was cheering and was so excited. It was really cool. And I got a chance to talk to both guys, and I like Josh. And I thought, he seemed like a pretty thoughtful kid. And to me, that's what it's all about as a quarterback, right? You got to have bravado and you got to have ego, but are you a thoughtful person who can approach the game and, learn? So that was the big question. And that's the big question for every kid that's picked. I don't care what the position is. And I think Josh has really taken a real work-a-day approach to it. And he's come along. And you can see it. His progress is the way he approaches every pass play, looking downfield, finding different receivers, choosing when to run, when to slide around in the pocket a little bit. It's been working really, really well, and I'm super happy. I mean, that doesn't mean that he wins a Super Bowl. It doesn't mean they ever win a Super Bowl, but I think the guy gives you a chance week in and week out. And what I do like about him most is he's taken that mantle of leadership and he owns it. And I think that, you have to have that. Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, Bruce Smith, Cornelius Bennett, Darryl Talley, you need 5-6 core guys. We had more than that then, but you have to have those guys. And I think he's taken up that role very well, and I think he's, I think we got a chance if we can stay healthy. I don't want to say I love this, but getting hurt early on defense in the beginning of the season gives you a chance. If you can get healthy, because it's a war of attrition. So if we get everybody back and we're on this trajectory near the end of the season, that gives you a good chance.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I give you a long answer to a short question.
Perfect answer, John. There's no need to apologize. That was great.
That's just how I roll, man.
Well, how bold are you feeling? Before I get you out of here and get a prediction, I want to know, do you have any bold predictions for this matchup between the Bills and Cardinals?
I was thinking about it the other day, and I picked the Bills to win the game on my other podcast. I have so many. No, I did one. It was miserable. I'm terrible. But they loved it. No, it was great, actually. It was with Joe Miller. He's awesome.
So
So,
reaction.
yeah, overreaction. It was great. I kid around because I don't like to, anyway. All right, so here's what I was thinking the other night. I picked the Bills, and I still stand by, we have to have more turnovers than they have. We have to have a balanced attack. Obviously, defensively they have to do their thing, but I'm not a defensive guy, so whatever. But then I thought grass, playing on grass. And that's kind of the X factor a little bit because grass behaves so much differently than AstroTurf. And, we played in grass, I think, in Tennessee. That didn't work out so well. And was it at Kansas City, right? Wasn't it?
No, I was in Buffalo.
Well, it was in Buffalo. Sorry. So grass is, I don't know. But I still take the Bills, but I think it's a close game. I think it's Bills by 4. I think the line is Cardinals -3, right?
Yeah. -3.
What's the over under?
56, I think. 56 and a half. Tops or something.
6.5. I'm taking the under.
Under.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like 24, 27-ish type game.
Yeah. Yeah.
No shootout.
What do you think, Mookie?
Are we doing bold predictions now? I might as well just go and get it out of the way, right? Our bold predictions. So
Might as well.
I think just by me
I didn't know. Am I preempting a different section of the show?
But we just analyzing and like just breaking this thing down. And what really kills me about how people like judge Josh Allen in certain phases of the game is like, oh, now I want to see where his confidence is because the last 4 games his completion percentage has been this and this has been that. Well, okay, where teams are playing 2-man shell, which is basically sending 3 to 4 guys. So you got 8 to 7 back in coverage. They're not allowing Josh Allen to go for 300 yards and have that miraculous completion percentage because guess what? Josh Allen has earned his respect. Nobody's not saying it right now, but he's earning his respect. And that's the only way you can try to beat the Bills or slow them down is to play that way, and hope that Josh Allen just get frustrated and try to force something into a window, which is an interception. But to that degree, he has been learning from that. So he's prepared for that. You saw what Seattle did at certain phases. They was blitzing, but they mixed it up and dropped in coverage. That's where they came with the screen to, the running back, Zach Moss. And then, they came with the screen to Smoke Brown. So they're getting better at recognizing that. You know what I mean? And so that's where it goes back to the question again, John, about the coaching. You know what I mean? He has to develop too. Coaches still have to develop as well as the player. So it's starting to work that way to where they can start getting that run game going and recognizing how to beat when teams play off of you. So with that being said, my bold prediction, they keep playing with this dude, man. They keep playing with this dude, and he's going to throw for 500 yards. I think Josh Allen can potentially throw for 500 yards on Sunday.
That's a lot of
400. He had 400 to begin the fourth quarter last week. So that ain't
a lot of yards.
Huh?
Wow.
So what you're saying, Mookie, is if they have 2 high safeties and they can disguise some of their zone coverages and confuse Josh a little bit, but they have to get there with 4. That's the issue, right?
Right.
So the offensive line has to beat 4 guys. That is what you're saying. So if we protect against 4, you're saying Josh is going to diagnose, coaching staff's going to put him in the right play for 2 high safeties, and he throws for 500.
Well, if he does that, he don't throw for 500. If Phoenix plays that way the whole game, he's not going to throw for 500. But that's not their style. That's not their style of play for defense. So for me to see Arizona play that way, we know they respect Josh Allen. And, if we don't, then, it's going to be a shootout in the desert. You know what I mean? Right. And a shootout in the desert, Josh Allen is ready for that war. And like you said before, he has those traits. He has that toughness that can lead you on that final drive late in the game. Something that's very Jim Kelly-esque right now. You know what I mean? So he's locked and loaded, ready for war. And he's still, he's still a little ticked off. You know what I mean? He's still playing with a chip on his shoulder. So I think
it's funny you said that. It's funny you said that. Okay, he's playing with a chip on his shoulder, right? I'm only like leaning around because my phone's about to die, so I'm trying to get it plugged in here. So you said playing with a chip on your shoulder. It's funny you say that because that's the way you have to play regardless, no matter what. Whether Larry Felser or Vic Carucci says you're any good or you're not any good. You say like Larry Felser, I went the Wayback Machine. You always have to play like that. So I think it's actually not a bad thing for a guy like Josh to have this feeling that, I don't have a lot of respect, because every week if you go out there with the attitude that you have to prove yourself, that's not a bad thing. That is not a bad thing. I mean, you're worse off if someone's coddling you and telling you you're the greatest thing ever, and you're surrounded by, yes men, and everybody in the media is drooling all over you. Hey, Tua, how does that feel? No, you know what I mean? So I agree with you. I mean, but having a chip on your shoulder is not a bad thing, as long as you can, control it, make the right. As long as you're trying not, as a quarterback, 11 guys on the field, 100 divided by 11, everybody's like 9% of the offense, right? Mm-hmm. You argue that a quarterback might be 20%. When you get into problems is when guys try to carry half the load, when they start doing stupid things, when they start thinking that they're the most important playmaker on the field, that we can't win unless I do something extraordinary. And that's when things start to unravel. Clayton, what's your take on it? Where do you see the game going?
Honestly, with this matchup, that kind of ties into my bold prediction, because throughout the time that Sean McDermott has been the coach of the Buffalo Bills, there really hasn't been any mobile, athletic quarterbacks that have played overwhelmingly well against this defense. Never. It doesn't matter what personnel it is. It doesn't matter which quarterback it is. The only quarterback that's really had any kind of success in both facets when playing the Bills defense since Sean McDermott took over was Patrick Mahomes. And even that game, you can't really say, oh, well, that was a real Patrick Mahomes game, if you know what I mean. Right. So going into this game, when you're facing a Kyler Murray, when you're facing a Cliff Kingsbury, don't get me wrong, Kyler Murray, he was playing at an MVP level the first 4 weeks of the season, just like Josh Allen was. And Kyler Murray, he's an incredible talent, like you touched on earlier, John. I love Kyler Murray. He's an exciting player to watch. The things he can do with the football in his hands and how creative Cliff Kingsbury's offense is an incredible deal. I think it is the real deal. But they're both inexperienced people in this profession, that is. I understand Cliff's had his various success with college offenses and what have you. And Kyler Murray, I mean, we all know he is just in his second year. So really, I see two people who are inexperienced going up against. I don't think we give Sean McDermott enough credit, as well as Leslie Frazier, because I think part of that really has to do with it. Their experience in the league and Sean McDermott's experience coaching in practice against guys like Donovan McNabb, against guys like Cam Newton, people like that. Seeing players like that every single day in preparation for the team you have to play that upcoming week, whether the quarterback's mobile or not. That kind of leads you into knowing what is successful and what works against certain players. And I think combining the fact that Kyler Murray is an athletic quarterback, along with the fact that he's an inexperienced athletic quarterback, I think this defense is going to throw some things that he can't really handle. I think this defense is going to confuse him a little. And I think it's going to look fairly similar to Russell Wilson last week, where you see a game where he's throwing 2 interceptions and fumble and putting the ball on the ground twice. That's a big time. This is a huge opportunity for the defense. John, you've said it multiple times throughout this show. Biggest factor is winning the takeover battle. Biggest factor is being able to cause turnovers and not give them back to the other team. So in this game, I think you're going to see a very similar game to that you saw in Seattle last week. And that's what ties in my bold prediction. I think Kyler Murray in this, well, not the offense, but Kyler Murray, the individual, will be held to under 225 total yards rushing and passing in this game. And if that is going to happen, you can guarantee it was a successful day for that Bills defense as well.
For sure. Under 225, that's a win for sure. I'll be watching the game in Denver, Colorado with the Colorado Bills backers. I'm flying out early to go to work in Denver. early in the week, and I was, it's really cool. You go to the Bills website, you can figure out where all the Bills backers groups are in the country. So my son's at UCLA, and I keep telling him, go hang out with the Buffalo Bills group in Santa Monica. And we have one in Tucson. There's 3 in Phoenix, and I timed it up so I'm leaving early enough tomorrow morning. So I'm going to watch the game. They usually get like, I think he said they usually get like 2,000 people. It's at an event center, and of course now because of COVID, maybe it's going to be 500 or something. But he said they will fly players in, and they do a whole dog and pony show. I mean, I can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
Oh man, I might have to get you on Sunday too, live from Colorado, man. To do all the folks down in Colorado know,
Yeah.
Live. My sister stays in Aurora, so I know all about Colorado, man.
Yeah, that's right. That's right around Denver, right? Isn't that a suburb?
Yeah, stay away from the mountain lions. They run around like straight crats out there.
You mean cougars?
I'll drink to that.
Oh,
God bless the big tree.
Oh yeah, what's his name passed away, huh? From the big tree.
Who? Nick.
It was a while back. The one of the owners, the guy that worked there, I can't think of his name.
Nick?
Was it Nick? Didn't he just die like 6 months ago?
I know it was somebody, but I'm not sure if it was Nick or not.
I don't know.
I'll definitely find out. I'll stop by there. I'll stop by up there the next home game. I'll stop by there.
Yeah.
I stop by there and check out. But that was the spot, man. People don't understand, man. The big tree, hey, don't get no better than that, man. Like if we could do a movie, you know what I mean? Like it'd be like it'd be better than North Dallas 40. I can tell you that.
Mookie's trying to get people in trouble out here.
No. I mean, no. It was just like the program, though. I swear, it was.
The
just
parking was terrible, though. I mean, they got to have a valet. What they need a valet.
I mean,
I'll tell you what. I'm just glad that what they needed back when we were playing was Uber and Lyft. Or places like the Big Tree had to have like a dormitory upstairs.
Absolutely.
I do miss Buffalo. How's my city, man? I love Buffalo.
Buffalo was great, man. They on the up and up. Hit Marlon up, man. Hit Marlon Kerner up. He handles all the the legends and the community stuff right now. You know what I mean? So then you gotta I know with COVID and everything, you were probably
Hey, Marlon's big time. I spend most of my time with Jeremy Kelly. So Jeremy and I are pretty close. I talk to Jeremy probably, I don't know, once every couple of weeks or so. But I really I miss Buffalo. And I tell everybody the same thing. It is by far the coolest city that I've ever been to in the United States of America. I mean, and I live downtown, so I lived at Delaware and Lafayette. And I mean, it was just historically, architecturally, the whole bit. I mean, it's just an incredible town. Every city has its problems, right? I mean, every city's gone through crap. I mean, I know the whole story of the Skajakwita and everything, and I get it, right? Or the king, not the young men, or the 33. I mean, every city has its problems, but I think Buffalo, there's just something that just kind of wells up, like you just can't shake it. Once you've been to Buffalo and spent time there, you can't get it out of your system. It's not like Miami, which you could forget tomorrow.
Hey, it's the city of good neighbors. You know what I mean? So, just look how, what happened. I mean, we're talking $500,000, donated, just to show support for Josh Allen and, his family during a tough time. You know what I mean? That's awesome. Unheard of. That is unheard of. No fan base in this stratosphere has ever, that's big.
I told my wife that story. I was like, hey, I got to tell you a story. You got a minute? And she's like, what? And I said, okay, let me lay the background for you, okay? Let me tell you what Buffalo Bills fans are like. And I told her this story, and she was like,
Right.
she was almost crying on me.
Man.
It was hilarious.
That's how we give it up, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think they're at 550,000 now. I've been following it.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, you know, Josh got it over that mark. This crazy part about it, they needed 17 grand. So he was like, F it. You know what I mean? I'm all in. 17 grand from number 17. Leaders lead by example. And like you said, it's still going. You know what I mean? It's still going. I love it, man. I love it. Keep it going, man.
I agree.
It's definitely going.
Incredible. John, you know, this has been a ton of fun. Mookie told me we were gonna get 15 or 20 minutes, and you know, to say we went a little over, that'd be an understatement. But
the over under, we went the over under. Now I guess we took.
We gotta be on a plane in 12 hours. I still have to pack my chonies.
I can't express enough gratitude for you coming on this platform and giving us your time and giving us your incredible insight. You know, you gave us a ton of insight on what's going on with this game and your thoughts and your feelings. If you could just tell the people where they can find you. I don't know if you're putting out your Twitter and whatnot, but if you want people to find you.
I'm on Parler at John Fina 70. And if you don't know what Parler is, basically it's the foil to Twitter. And I believe in free market competition. So I'm on Parler at John Fina 70. I'm on Twitter at John Fina. And I guess I'm also on the Facebook. And I don't know. I think I'm on Instagram. I haven't opened it since Jesus wore sandals. So anyway, so yeah, and I'm a pretty accessible guy. I'm really, I look at this whole thing as fun. And if you're gonna like comment on something and tag me, I'm just gonna lay my best one-liner on it. And you know what? Not to like, I don't poke and prod people. I just try to say something that's funny. And if I think that I'm gonna type something that if you smile, I win. Like I made somebody's life this much better. And that's what I think this whole thing is about. So I don't take it too seriously. I'm all about the fun, and I'm totally accessible.
Spoken like a true Buffalonian right there, John.
Cheers, baby. Cheers.
Absolutely. Salute to you.
Oh yeah. Well, Mook, anything you have going on? Where can the people follow you on Twitter and whatnot and what have you?
You can check me on Waffle Sports. All right, Waffle Sports, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. That's Waffle WUFO 1080. You know, be on the lookout for Bill's World. You know, I have a show coming up. You know, what will be a little bit more exclusive between media and Bill's players coming up soon. But you know, I just appreciate having my guy John on, man. Maybe we can catch up to John Sunday in Colorado and we can talk about it a little bit more, right, Clay?
Yeah. You know, I honestly I was gonna text you or whatever that is, Messenger or my phone number, because I was like, damn, I agreed to do this thing, but I am totally gonna forget. And I was cooking dinner. We made spaghetti vongole with lambs and shrimp and red pepper.
Really?
And I was like, oh my God, I got to go sit down on the couch. I'm so full of shrimp and clams. And then I picked up my phone. I saw that little dot up there in the corner. I'm like, oh my God, I missed Mookie's thing. I'm such a shit. I totally missed his deal. And then I was like, I look back and I'm like, oh, thank God I didn't miss it. So I got to give you my cell number so you can text me, because I don't get notifications from much, because I don't want to be notified of anything unless it's good news. Like if I win the lottery, call me.
I need to be notified of that recipe you was just talking about that spaghetti.
It's all up here, buddy. It's all up here.
I know. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? That's from within. You know what I mean? That's from the last thing, the good stock. I need that recipe.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's an easy one. I'll walk you through it next time.
Bet.
Oh yeah. And until next time, thank you everybody for watching. John, thank you for your time, your insight, and all the intelligence and knowledge that you brought to the table tonight. I appreciate you coming on. And you know, hopefully this isn't the last time I get to have a conversation with you, and hopefully we can get you back on the tailgate with Mookie, or maybe even post game. I don't know. Time will tell. We'll see. But this was a ton of fun, man. Thank you.
Cheers. Anytime. Take care, fellas.
Go Bills.
Well, I hope everybody. Oh, well, John's out of here. Well, hope you all have a wonderful evening. Go Bills.